A bond built on laughter and loyalty, shattered in a single night of fire, blood, and betrayal. This is not just a story of friendship lost. This is a fight for survival against the enemy no one ever expects, your closest companion. Stay with me until the very end, because the truth hidden inside this tale will haunt you long after the last word is spoken. A traitorous friend, who became a mortal enemy. The night was heavy with silence. Only the crackling of the dying fire broke through the still air. Shadows stretched long across the wooden walls, twisting like restless spirits. I sat at the table, my hands trembling against the rough grain. A cold bead of sweat slid down my temple. The smell of smoke clung to my clothes, sharp and suffocating. I heard the door creak open. Slow, careful, deliberate. And then I saw him. The friend I once trusted with every secret. His eyes did not hold warmth anymore. They were sharp, gleaming with something cruel. The flicker of the fire revealed a blade in his hand. Its edge caught the light, throwing back a cruel shimmer. My chest tightened, each breath a struggle. He stepped forward, boots thudding softly against the floorboards. The rhythm of his footsteps matched the pounding in my chest. I searched his face, desperate for some trace of the man I knew. But his lips curved into a smile I had never seen before. A smile that felt like a blade itself. He spoke my name slowly, as if savoring the sound. The way he said it made my stomach twist. Every memory of laughter, of shared promises, shattered in that moment. The room seemed smaller, the walls pressing closer. The fire sputtered, casting the room into brief darkness. When the light returned, his shadow loomed larger. And I realized he had not come to talk. He had come to end something. Something far greater than just a friendship. His breath carried the faint scent of iron and smoke. It filled the air between us, thick and unbearable. My throat tightened, but no words left my lips. The fire hissed as another log collapsed into embers. The shadows danced across his face, distorting his grin into something monstrous. He raised the blade, slow and deliberate. Its point hovered in the air, aimed at my chest. My heartbeat roared louder than the crackling fire. I felt the wooden chair beneath me tremble, though it was only my own shaking. His eyes never left mine, cold and merciless. Once they had been eyes of loyalty, of brotherhood. Now they were the eyes of a predator. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me harder than the threat of steel. Every memory of shared battles, of laughter under starlight, turned to poison. He took another step closer, and the floor groaned beneath his boots. The sound was sharp, slicing through the suffocating silence. I forced myself to rise, though my knees fought to collapse. The air between us burned with tension, heavy and inescapable. His blade gleamed brighter, as if hungry for blood. And in that frozen instant, I knew the friend I loved no longer existed. Only the enemy remained. The fire cracked louder, as if the room itself braced for violence. His arm jerked forward, the blade flashing like a strike of lightning. I staggered back, my shoulder slamming against the rough wall. Splinters bit into my skin, sharp and stinging. The air split with the whistle of steel as it carved the space I had just left. I tasted copper on my tongue from biting down too hard. His grin widened, savage and merciless. The floor trembled under his advancing steps, each one echoing like a drum of doom. My breath came ragged, chest aching, lungs refusing to fill. I grabbed the edge of the table, its surface slick with spilled wine. The cup rolled off, shattering on the ground, the sound piercing like glass rain. For a moment, his gaze flicked downward, distracted by the crash. I felt the chance surge through me like fire. My hand darted to the iron poker resting by the hearth. The heat of it burned against my palm, searing flesh, but I did not let go. His blade rose again, aiming higher this time, hungering for my throat. And before he could strike, I swung. The air thundered with the impact. The poker clashed against his blade with a shriek of metal. Sparks burst, tiny embers scattering into the air. The shock rattled my arm, sending pain surging through my wrist. He pressed forward, strength grinding down against mine. His breath hit my face, hot and sour, carrying the bitterness of rage. I could see the pulse in his neck, beating steady, unshaken. My own pulse raced wild, hammering in my ears like a drum of panic. The firelight flickered, painting his features in violent shades of red and black. He shoved harder, the edge of his blade sliding closer to my face. The heat of the steel kissed my cheek, cold and merciless. I smelled the acrid sting of scorched dust from the iron poker. My knees buckled, wood groaning beneath my weight. For an instant, his lips curled into a whisper of triumph. And rage boiled inside me, fierce and blinding. I twisted my wrist, breaking the lock of our weapons. His blade slashed down, missing me by inches, biting deep into the table. The wood split with a thunderous crack. Wine and ash sprayed into the air, staining the floor like blood. I stumbled back, gasping, my grip tight on the burning poker. He tore the blade free, eyes burning brighter, darker, hungrier. And in that moment I saw it. He wanted my fear as much as my blood. He lunged again, the blade cutting the air with a vicious hiss. I swung the poker in a wide arc, the heat blistering my hand. Metal struck wood as a sword carved through the chair between us, splitting it in two. The crash echoed, filling the cabin like thunder. Splinters flew, stinging my arms and face. I staggered sideways, boots sliding across the floor slick with wine. The bitter scent of it mixed with ash and smoke, thick and choking. His laugh followed me, low and cruel, rolling through the room like a growl. I could feel the weight of his presence, pressing closer, tighter. The firelight glinted off his blade as he raised a high. I lifted the poker, heart slamming against my ribs like a drum. Every nerve screamed, every muscle locked with desperation. The world shrank to the space between us. The fire, the steel, the betrayal burning hotter than the flames in the hearth. And then his strike came down, a storm of rage and finality. The blade crashed against the poker, the sound ringing like a church bell struck in fury. The force drove me to my knees, the floorboards groaning beneath the weight of our struggle. Pain lanced through my arms as the iron seared deeper into my palms. My breath tore from me in ragged bursts, hot and shallow. His shadow loomed over me, taller, darker, swallowing the light. His teeth clenched, jaw tight, veins pulsing at his temple. The tip of his blade inched closer, its gleam burning into my vision. I twisted, throwing my weight sideways. The poker tore free, and his blade plunged down into the floor where I had been. The cabin shook with the impact, wood splitting in violent protest. His curse filled the room, sharp and venomous. I struck blindly, swinging the poker upward. It smashed against his shoulder with a sickening crack. His grunt of pain was raw, animal, torn from deep in his chest. For the first time, his grip faltered. The sword wavered, the certainty in his eyes flickering. But only for a heartbeat. Then his fury surged, greater, darker, unstoppable. He turned on me with a roar, his blade tearing free from the wood, dripping splinters. The fire spat sparks behind him, casting him as a figure of wrath, a demon made flesh. And in that instant I knew only one of us would leave this room alive. He lunged, faster than before, the blade a silver streak through firelight. I barely raised the poker in time, the clash screaming in my ears. The impact sent shock through my bones, rattling my teeth. He pressed forward, the edge slicing down my arm. Heat tore across my skin, and wet warmth followed. Blood. My own blood. It dripped fast, thick, painting the floorboards beneath us. The sting was sharp, but the betrayal cut deeper. He smiled when he saw it, a twisted satisfaction spreading across his face. The friend I once trusted was gone, replaced by something monstrous. His laughter rose, wild and unhinged, echoing against the cabin walls. The flames leapt higher, shadows writhing like specters around us. I felt my strength slipping, my grip weakening on the iron. But rage flared hotter than pain, fierce and consuming. I tightened my hold, even as blood slicked the poker's handle. He swung again, certain this strike would end me, and I met it with a roar of my own, steel and iron colliding in a storm of sparks. The room shook with the force of our clash. Steel shrieked against iron, sparks bursting like fireflies in a storm. His blade bore down, muscles straining, fury etched into every line of his face. I pushed back, every tendon burning, every breath torn from my chest. The heat of the fire wrapped around us, suffocating, pressing close like a furnace. My blood dripped steadily, pattering on the wooden floor like a relentless clock. His eyes burned into mine, cold, merciless, unrecognizable. The weight of years of friendship shattered in that stare. He wrenched his blade free, spinning it in a deadly arc. The wind of its passage grazed my cheek, sharp as a whisper of death. I ducked, the poker rising with desperate speed. It connected with his ribs, a hollow thud, air rushing from his lungs. He staggered, but his grin never faltered. If anything, it widened. He stepped forward again, closer, relentless, unstoppable. The floor groaned under his boots, the cabin trembling with our fury. His blade rose once more, poised like judgment itself. And in that instant I felt it, either I would strike now or I would never rise again. I surged forward before his strike could fall. The poker drove upward, guided by nothing but desperation and rage. It struck his chest with a sickening crack, the heat of the iron's searing flesh. His scream tore through the cabin, raw and furious, echoing like a wounded beast. The smell of burnt cloth and scorched skin filled the air, choking me. He stumbled back, clutching his chest, his blade wavering in his grip. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. But it was not fear of pain. It was the fear of losing, the fear of falling. His lips curled, spitting words of venom I barely heard over the roar of blood in my ears. He lunged again, wild and reckless, blade slashing wide. I twisted, but the edge tore across my side, fire ripping through flesh. I gasped, the wound burning, my legs threatening to buckle. The world tilted, the walls bending, shadows twisting into cruel shapes. The fire hissed, sparks rising as if the flames themselves watched us. He raised his blade for one final strike, every ounce of his fury poured into that moment. And I lifted the poker once more, bloodied hands refusing to let go. His roar filled the room as the blade came down. Time seemed to shatter into fragments. The glint of steel, the rush of air, the crushing weight of his hatred bearing down on me. I thrust the poker upward with everything left in me. The world exploded in sound, iron against flesh, bones snapping, steel clattering to the floor. His eyes went wide, shock flooding them, the grin torn away at last. A strangled breath escaped his throat, broken and wet. He staggered, his body trembling as the firelight painted his face in a grotesque mask. Blood seeped dark against his tunic, spreading like ink across paper. His sword slipped from his fingers, striking the floor with a hollow clang. The sound echoed, final, merciless. He swayed, his hand reaching toward me, not with friendship but with fury unspent. And then he fell, crashing to the boards, shaking the cabin with his weight. The firelight flickered across his still form, shadows crawling over him like hungry hands. I stood trembling, chest heaving, the poker still clenched tight though my strength was gone. The silence after his fall was louder than any roar. But the betrayal burned on, deeper than the wound in my side. Deeper than the blood on my hands, the fire snapped, spitting sparks into the air. The only movement in the room was the trembling of my own hands. His body lay twisted on the floor, eyes open, staring but seeing nothing. The blade beside him gleamed faintly, smeared red, a relic of what he had become. The cabin reeked of iron and smoke, the air thick, suffocating, alive with the stench of betrayal. I pressed my palm to my side, blood hot and slick against my skin. Every breath burned, shallow and sharp, But it was not the wound that hollowed me. It was the weight of his face, frozen in that last moment between rage and shock. Memories surged, his laughter by the riverside, his hand steady on my shoulder, his voice swearing loyalty. Each memory now a shard, cutting deeper than the steel ever could. The walls seemed to close in, wood groaning like it carried the burden of our violence. The fire dimmed, as if it too recoiled from what had been done. I stumbled to the table, my knees weak, the poker slipping from my grip at last. It hit the ground with a dull thud, heavy with blood and ash. My breath echoed in the silence, the only sound left in a place where trust had died. And still his eyes would not close. I forced myself to look away from his lifeless stare. The weight of it pressed against my chest, a stone I could not cast aside. The fire sputtered, smoke curling toward the rafters like black ghosts. The air grew colder, though the flames still burned. I staggered toward the door, every step dragging, my side screaming with pain. The wood beneath my boots was slick, stained with both our blood. My hand gripped the latch, slick with sweat, trembling so violently it rattled. I pulled, and the door groaned open, the night rushing in like a gasp of freedom. The air outside struck my lungs sharp and cold, filled with pine and earth. The stars shone bright, uncaring, scattered like shards of glass across the heavens. I stumbled into the open, the cabin's glow burning at my back. Behind me lay ruin. Before me stretched silence and shadow. Yet I felt no victory. Only the echo of his voice, whispering in memory, turning sweet words into poison. The wound in my side throbbed, but it was nothing compared to the hollow ache within. I had lived, but I had lost far more than I had saved. And as the night deepened, I knew the enemy had not died with him. The enemy lived on inside me. The forest loomed ahead, vast and silent. Its trees swayed in the wind, their branches whispering secrets I could not hear. Each step I took away from the cabin felt heavier, as though chains dragged at my heels. The cold gnawed at me, sharper than the pain in my side. Blood seeped through my torn clothes, leaving a dark trail on the earth. But I did not stop. I dared not stop. Every rustle of leaves made me flinch. Every crack of a branch behind me tightened my chest. I half expected to see him rising again, blade in hand, smile carved in cruelty. But when I turned, there was only darkness and the faint glow of the cabin fire dying in the distance. The betrayal followed me, heavier than shadow, colder than night. I could still hear his laugh, echoing in my skull, as if mocking me for surviving. The path beneath my feet blurred, tears stinging my eyes though I did not feel them fall. Friendship had once been my shield, but now it had become my deepest wound. And I knew, as the forest swallowed me whole, that trust would never come so easily again. Something inside me had broken with him, and it would never mend. The forest thinned as dawn crept across the sky. A pale light spread over the horizon, soft and distant, touching the treetops with silver. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of earth washed clean by night. I paused at the edge of a clearing, my breath shallow, my body weak. Behind me lay fire, blood, and betrayal. Before me stretched a road I had never walked. I sank to my knees, the weight of memory pressing harder than the wound at my side. His face lingered in my mind, not as the enemy who fell, but as the friend who once swore never to leave. That vow was broken, yet it bound me still, for I carried the scar of it, deeper than flesh, carved into the heart. The sun rose slowly, scattering the shadows, but not the ones within me. I rose to my feet, steady though trembling, and turned toward the path ahead. The past would follow me always, but it would not chain me. I had lost a friend. I had faced a traitor. And I had survived. That was enough to begin again.